Emma had always believed her home was safe. Not perfect, but safe. A quiet life, a loving husband, and a sweet little daughter who filled every corner of their house with laughter. Her husband, Daniel Carter, was a single father before he met her. He carried his past with responsibility, never complaining, always putting his daughter Lily first. Emma respected that about him. She even admired it. But today, something inside that trust was about to break. It all started on a simple Sunday afternoon. The sunlight was soft, pouring through the bedroom window like warm gold. Emma decided to clean the closet, something she had been postponing for weeks. Daniel had taken Lily to the park, and the house was finally quiet. Too quiet. As she folded old clothes and rearranged shelves, she hummed softly, trying to enjoy the peaceful moment. But then something caught her attention. Behind Daniel's old jackets, tucked deep inside the corner of the closet, there was a small box. It didn't look new. It looked hidden. Emma stopped. Her hand froze in midair. For a moment, she just stared at it. Something about it felt wrong, not obvious, not loud, but heavy. Her heartbeat slowly increased. Why would Daniel hide a box here? She whispered to herself. She hesitated. Every instinct told her to leave it alone. But curiosity is a dangerous thing when trust starts to weaken. Slowly, she pulled the box out. It was light, carefully wrapped, almost like someone didn't want it found, but also didn't want it damaged. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling slightly. She opened it, and in that moment, her entire world shifted. Inside the box were 3 women's blouses, not hers, not anything she had ever seen before. They were delicate, elegant, soft pastel colors, light pink, cream white, and lavender. The fabric looked expensive, carefully folded, almost preserved like memories. Emma blinked once, twice. No, she whispered under her breath. Her fingers slowly touched the fabric of the lavender blouse. It was soft and faintly scented. Not her perfume, a different scent. Lavender, mixed with something nostalgic, something unfamiliar. Her breath became uneven. Why would he keep these? She thought. 1,000 questions started attacking her mind at once. Are these from someone else? Why are they hidden? Who wore them? How long have they been here? Her hands started shaking more now. She placed the blouse back into the box slowly, as if touching it too long would make the truth worse. But the damage was already done. Emma sat still, her eyes slowly filled with confusion, then doubt, and finally fear. Because trust doesn't break loudly. It breaks quietly. In moments like this, she closed the box and placed it back exactly where she found it. But now, it didn't feel like just a box anymore. It felt like a secret inside her marriage. When Daniel and Lily returned home later that afternoon, everything looked normal. Lily ran inside laughing, holding a small toy she got from the park. Mommy, Daddy pushed me on the swing so high. Emma forced a smile. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Daniel walked in behind her, calm and relaxed, holding grocery bags. Hey, he said softly, smiling at Emma. Everything okay? That smile, the same smile she used to feel safe with. Now it felt different. Emma looked at him, and for the first time, she felt something she never felt before. Suspicion. Yeah, she replied quietly. Everything's fine. But it wasn't fine. Not even close. That night, after dinner, Emma couldn't focus on anything. Daniel was sitting on the couch, watching TV with Lily, laughing occasionally, talking about silly things. A perfect family moment. But Emma's mind was somewhere else. She kept replaying the moment in the closet. The box, the blouses, the scent. Her chest felt tight. Every time Daniel smiled at her, her heart twisted a little more. Was it guilt? Or was she misunderstanding everything? She wanted to believe him. She really did. But trust, once shaken, doesn't heal easily. Later that night, after Lily went to sleep, the house fell silent again. Emma sat in the kitchen alone. The box was still in her mind like a shadow. She couldn't escape. She took a deep breath. Maybe she should ask him. But what if the truth hurts more? What if she loses everything? Footsteps broke her thoughts. Daniel walked into the kitchen. Can't sleep? He asked, gently. Emma looked at him. For a moment, she wanted to speak, but the words didn't come out. Instead, she simply said, I'm just tired. Daniel nodded slowly, studying her expression. You seem distant today, he said softly. Emma forced a small smile. Just cleaning all day, exhausted. He didn't question further, but before leaving, he placed a hand on her shoulder. I'm here if you need anything, he said warmly, and then he walked away. Emma stood there, frozen, because the truth was simple. She did need something. She needed answers, but she wasn't ready for them yet. That night, Emma couldn't sleep at all. She kept staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the house. Beside her, Daniel slept peacefully, like nothing was wrong, like nothing was hidden. But Emma knew something had changed. Something small, something quiet, something dangerous, and she didn't know it yet. But that hidden box was only the beginning of a truth that would either destroy her marriage or redefine it forever. If you enjoyed this love story, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. After that night, something invisible changed inside Emma, not on the surface, but deep within her heart. The house still looked the same. The mornings still started with breakfast, coffee, and school routines. Daniel still smiled. Lily still laughed. Life still continued, as if nothing had happened. But Emma was no longer the same. She had become quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that hides storms inside. Every time Daniel spoke to her, she listened carefully. Every time he used his phone, she noticed. Every time he left a room, she wondered. It wasn't that she wanted to suspect him, it was that she couldn't stop, because once doubt enters the heart, it doesn't leave easily. The memory of that box, those 3 blouses, refused to fade. Emma told herself again and again. Maybe there is a simple explanation. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I should trust him. But then her mind would whisper back, why hide them? And that one question kept breaking her peace. Days passed like this, silent, heavy, uncomfortable. Daniel noticed the change. One morning, while making coffee, he looked at her carefully. You've been quiet lately, he said gently. Everything okay? Emma forced a small smile without looking at him. Just tired, she replied. Daniel nodded, but he didn't seem convinced. Still, he didn't push Dot, and that made Emma feel even more confused. If he was hiding something, wouldn't he act differently? Or was he simply too good at hiding it? That thought scared her more than anything. Later that day, Emma sat in the living room, watching Lily play with her toys. The innocent sound of her laughter filled the house. Emma smiled at her daughter, but her heart was somewhere else. She kept thinking, what if Lily asks me about things I don't understand? What if I'm not really part of this family's past? She felt like she was standing in a life that already had a history, and she was trying to fit inside it, a life that might still belong to someone else. That evening, Daniel came home later than usual. He looked tired but calm, carrying grocery bags again. Traffic was crazy today, he said casually. Emma nodded slowly. Dinner is almost ready, she replied. Normal conversation, normal tone, but inside her, nothing felt normal anymore. As Daniel walked past her, she noticed something small, a faint scent. Not her perfume, not Lily's shampoo. Something familiar, but distant. Her heart tightened. It reminded her of the blouse lavender. Emma turned slightly, watching him go into the kitchen. Her thoughts spiraled again. Where is that scent coming from? She shook her head quickly, trying to stop herself. No, stop. You're overthinking. But overthinking had become her reality now. That night, after dinner, Lily fell asleep early. The house became quiet again. Too quiet. Emma sat on the sofa, while Daniel watched TV beside her. Normally, she would rest her head on his shoulder. Normally, they would talk or laugh about small things. But tonight, there was distance between them, not physical, emotional. Daniel noticed it again. He turned off the TV. Emma, he said softly, talk to me. What's going on? Emma's hands tightened slightly. She avoided his eyes. I told you, I'm just tired. But Daniel didn't accept it this time. He turned toward her fully. No, he said gently. This isn't just tiredness. You've been different for days. Silence filled the room. Emma's heart beat faster. This was it, the moment she had been avoiding. Her mind screamed at her to stop, but her lips finally moved. "I found something," she said quietly. Daniel frowned slightly. "Found what?" Emma swallowed hard. Her voice shook. "A box. In your closet." That was enough. The room changed instantly. Daniel didn't speak immediately. His expression shifted, not to anger, not to fear, but to something deeper, something emotional almost, painful. Emma noticed it, and it confused her more. "I opened it," she continued, her voice breaking slightly. "There were 3 women's blouses inside." Silence. A heavy silence. Emma's eyes finally met his. "Who do they belong to, Daniel?" For a long moment, he didn't answer, and that silence felt louder than any confession. Emma's heart started racing. Her imagination began to fill the gaps. Maybe he's hiding something. Maybe he's lying. Maybe everything she feared was real. But then Daniel leaned back slowly, covering his face with one hand. And when he spoke, his voice was low. Not defensive, not angry, just tired. "I should have told you sooner," he said. Emma froze. Her breath caught. "So it is true," she whispered. Daniel shook his head immediately. "No," he said softly, "not what you think." Emma frowned. Her emotions were collapsing between hope and fear. "Then explain," she said firmly, though her voice trembled. Daniel looked at her, long and deeply. Then he finally said the name that changed everything. "Sarah." Emma blinked. "Your late wife?" she asked, slowly. Daniel nodded. The tension didn't disappear, but it shifted. Now it was something else, something heavier, something emotional. Emma stayed silent. Daniel continued, "I kept those blouses because Lily misses her mother." Emma's expression softened slightly, but she was still confused. Daniel's voice became quieter. "Sometimes when you're not home, Lily talks about Sarah. She asks questions. She misses her. Those blouses. She believes they still carry her scent." Emma felt something crack inside her chest. "I never meant to hide it from you," Daniel said honestly. "I just didn't want you to feel like you're living in someone else's shadow." Emma looked down slowly. The truth wasn't what she expected. It wasn't betrayal. It was memory. It was grief. It was a father trying to protect his child's heart, and failing to include his present life fully in that pain. Emma felt tears forming in her eyes, not from anger, but from realization. She had built a fear on a misunderstanding of love and loss. Daniel looked at her softly. "I wasn't hiding another woman," he said gently. "I was holding on to my past, because I didn't know how to let it go without hurting Lily." Silence filled the room again, but this time, it wasn't sharp. It was soft, heavy, but honest. Emma wiped her tears slowly. "I thought," she whispered, "I thought I was being replaced." Daniel shook his head immediately. "You're not," he said firmly. "You never were." That moment, something changed between them. Not instantly fixed, but understood. For the first time since she found the box, Emma didn't feel like an outsider anymore. She felt like someone who had finally stepped into the truth. A truth not of betrayal, but of healing still in progress. And slowly, her fear started turning into something else. Understanding. The room stayed silent, long after Daniel finished speaking. Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the kind that feels heavy in the chest, like the air itself is carrying emotions that haven't been released yet. Emma sat on the edge of the sofa, her hands trembling slightly. Sarah, that name kept echoing in her mind, not as a threat anymore, but as a memory she never fully understood. She looked at Daniel, for the first time in days. She wasn't looking at him with suspicion. She was looking at him with something more complicated, understanding, mixed with guilt and emotional exhaustion. "I didn't know," Emma whispered finally. "I didn't know Lily was still holding on to her like that." Daniel nodded slowly. "She doesn't talk about it often," he said quietly, "but sometimes, when she misses her badly, she holds on to things that remind her of her." Emma looked down the blouses, 3 simple pieces of fabric, and yet they carried so much weight. Not betrayal, but grief. Memories. A child's longing for a mother she lost too soon. Emma's eyes slowly filled again, but this time, not with fear, with realization. I thought I was stepping into a life that wasn't mine, she said softly. Daniel looked at her with calm honesty. You are part of this life now, he replied, but you're also stepping into a story that didn't start with you. Those words hit Emma deeply because they were true, and truth, even when it hurts, has a different kind of clarity. A few minutes passed in silence. Then Emma finally spoke again. I need to know something, she said. Daniel listened carefully. Did you ever feel like I don't belong here? The question wasn't angry. It was vulnerable. Raw. Daniel immediately shook his head. No, he said firmly. Never. Emma looked at him, trying to read his expression, but there was no hesitation in his eyes, only sincerity. I was just afraid. Daniel continued quietly, afraid that if I told you everything about Sarah, you might think you're competing with a memory. Emma swallowed hard. That was exactly what she had been feeling, even if she never said it out loud. I didn't want you to feel like you're standing in someone else's shadow, Daniel added. Emma's eyes lowered again. The shadow. That was the word her heart had been using all along, but now it felt different. Less like a threat, more like something unfinished, something human, something real. Suddenly, the sound of small footsteps broke the silence. Lily walked into the living room, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Mommy, she called softly. Emma immediately wiped her tears and forced a gentle smile. Yes, sweetheart. Lily walked toward her slowly. I had a dream about Mama Sarah again, she whispered. Emma froze slightly. Daniel looked down, quietly emotional. Lily continued innocently. She was smiling, and she said she's not sad anymore. Emma's heart tightened. She looked at Daniel. Daniel didn't speak. He just listened. Lily then turned toward Emma, and she said, You should stop being scared. Emma's breath stopped for a moment. The words felt too specific, too emotional, too direct, as if the innocence of a child had touched something deeper than adults could explain. Emma slowly knelt down in front of Lily. Do you miss her a lot? She asked softly. Lily nodded. Double quotes, yes, but Daddy says she's still with us in memories. Emma gently hugged her for the first time. It didn't feel like she was entering a forbidden space. It felt like she was stepping into something sacred, something she was allowed to understand, not replace. After Lily went back to her room, Emma and Daniel remained in silence again. But this time, it wasn't distance, it was reflection. Emma finally spoke again. I thought I was failing you, she said quietly. Daniel turned toward her. Why would you think that? She hesitated, because I felt like I was trying to fit into something that already had its own shape, she admitted, a shape that belonged to her. Daniel sighed softly. Then he spoke honestly. Emma, Sarah, will always be part of Lily's story, but she is not part of our present relationship. Those words landed slowly, carefully, not as rejection, but as balance. Emma nodded slightly. I understand that now, she said, but her voice still carried emotion, because understanding something and fully healing from it are two different things. Daniel looked at her with softer eyes now. I should have explained everything earlier, he admitted. I didn't realize silence would create distance between us. Emma looked at him, and I should have asked, instead of assuming, she replied. A small pause followed. Then Daniel gave a faint, tired smile. Looks like we both made mistakes. Emma let out a small breath, almost like a release. For days, she had been holding tension inside her chest. Now, it was slowly loosening, not gone, but lighter. She looked at the box again. In her mind, 3 blouses, no longer secrets, no longer threats, just memories wrapped in fabric. I don't want to feel like I'm competing with the past, Emma said, honestly. Daniel nodded immediately. You're not competing, he said. You're building the present with me. Those words stayed in the air. Simple, but powerful. Emma finally looked at him, fully. Not with fear, not with doubt, but with something more grounded. I think I understand now, she said softly. Daniel reached for her hand. This time, she didn't hesitate. She held it firmly. And for the first time in days, there was no distance between them, only understanding. But deep down, both of them knew something important. This wasn't the end of the emotional journey. It was only the beginning of healing a family, built from both love and loss. After that emotional night, something subtle began to shift inside the house. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but slowly, like broken pieces, starting to find their place again. The silence between Emma and Daniel was no longer heavy with suspicion. Now it was quieter, softer, almost thoughtful, but healing is never instant. It comes in waves, and Emma felt every single one of them. The next morning started differently. Sunlight spilled through the kitchen windows, warm and gentle. Lily was already humming while eating cereal, her small feet swinging under the chair. Daniel was making coffee, and Emma stood near the counter, watching them. For a moment, she didn't feel like an outsider. But she didn't feel fully inside, either. She was somewhere in between, a place where healing begins, but hasn't fully settled. Daniel glanced at her. Their eyes met. No tension, no fear, just quiet understanding. "Sleep, okay?" he asked softly. Emma nodded. Yes, better than before. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either, because her heart was still learning how to trust again. Later that day, something unexpected happened. Lily came running into the living room, holding the same small box Emma had found days ago. "Mommy, Emma," she called excitedly. "Can I show you something?" Emma looked at Daniel quickly. Daniel nodded, gently. "It's okay," he said. Lily sat beside Emma on the sofa. Inside the box were the 3 blouses, again, carefully folded, not hidden anymore, but shared. "This is Mama Sarah's favorite color," Lily said proudly, pointing to the lavender blouse. "And this one she wore on my birthday picture." Emma listened quietly. Her heart tightened, but not painfully anymore, more like emotionally aware. She realized something important in that moment. These weren't just clothes. They were memories. For a child who still needed connection, Emma gently touched Lily's hair. "Do you miss her a lot?" she asked softly. Lily nodded. "But Daddy says she's still part of my heart." Emma looked at Daniel again. He was watching them silently, not interfering, just present. That moment felt different. Not like replacement, not like competition, but like inclusion later. After Lily went to her room, Emma and Daniel sat together on the couch. No TV, no distractions, just silence, but peaceful this time. Emma finally spoke. "I've been thinking," she said, slowly. Daniel turned toward her. "I don't want Sarah to feel like a wall between us," she continued, "but I also don't want to ignore what she means to Lily." Daniel nodded. "I don't want that either," he replied. Honestly, Emma took a breath. "Then maybe we don't remove her from this story," she said softly. "We learn how to carry her in a way that doesn't hurt the present." Daniel looked at her carefully. Those words touched him deeply, because that was exactly what he had been struggling to do for years, without knowing how. "I never thought you would understand it this way," he admitted. Emma gave a small, emotional smile. "I didn't understand it before," she said. "I was afraid of what I didn't know." A pause followed. Then Daniel spoke quietly. "I was afraid too, that loving Sarah's memory would push you away." Emma shook her head slowly. "I'm not here to erase her," she said. "I'm here to live with you, and everything that comes with your life." Those words settled in the room like calm air after a storm for the first time. Both of them felt aligned again. Not perfect, but honest. That evening, something beautiful happened. Emma decided to do something she never imagined before. She went into Lily's room and sat beside her on the bed. "Lily," she said softly. Lily looked up, Yes, Emma smiled gently. Would you like to tell me more about Mama Sarah? Lily's eyes widened with happiness, and just like that, Lily started talking about her favorite meals, her laughter, her songs, her hugs, the way she used to braid Lily's hair. Emma listened carefully, not interrupting, not comparing, just listening, and slowly, something inside her changed. She wasn't losing her place. She was learning a new one, a place where she didn't replace anyone, but became part of a growing emotional story. Later that night, Daniel stood at the doorway, watching them. Emma was brushing Lily's hair gently, while Lily talked happily for a moment. Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, not the absence of pain, but the presence of understanding. He walked in quietly. Emma looked at him. They shared a look. No words needed. Because sometimes healing doesn't need explanation. It just needs acceptance. That night, after Lily slept, Emma and Daniel stood together near the window. The house was quiet. The world outside was still. Emma leaned slightly on the wall. I used to think love was about replacing pain, she said softly. Daniel looked at her. And now, he asked. She smiled faintly. Now I think love is about carrying it, without letting it break you. Daniel nodded slowly. That's the hardest kind of love, he said. Emma turned toward him, but maybe the most real one. A silence followed, not empty, but complete. Daniel gently took her hand. This time, there was no hesitation, no fear, only connection, because something important had changed. Inside their marriage, the secret box was no longer a secret. The blouses were no longer suspicion, and Sarah was no longer a shadow. She had become part of a story that shaped their present, without destroying it. Emma looked at Daniel one last time. I think we're going to be okay, she said softly. Daniel smiled. We already are starting to be. And for the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel divided. It felt whole again. Not perfect, but real. After that night of healing, life didn't suddenly become perfect, but it became different, quieter in a better way, warmer in a deeper way, and more honest than it had ever been before. Emma noticed small changes. First, not big dramatic moments, but tiny details that slowly rebuilt. Trust, the way Daniel looked at her in the morning, no longer guarded. The way he spoke about Sarah, no longer avoiding, but open. The way Lily smiled, more relaxed, more secure, as if she could finally feel that her world wasn't divided anymore. But even after healing begins, the heart still carries questions. One Sunday morning, Emma woke up early. The house was still asleep. Daniel was resting beside her, and Lily's soft breathing could be heard from her room. Emma quietly got out of bed. She walked toward the living room, and there it was. The small box still in the same place, but now it didn't feel hidden. It felt remembered. She sat down slowly, holding it in her hands. This time, she didn't feel fear. She didn't feel suspicion. She felt something else. Respect, care, memory, Emma opened it. The 3 blouses were still there, neatly folded. Soft pastel colors, lavender cream, pink. She gently touched them, no longer searching for secrets, but understanding stories. Each blouse represented a moment in Daniel's past, a chapter of love that shaped him and shaped Lily. But it wasn't her enemy anymore. It was part of her family's history. Behind her, footsteps quietly approached. Daniel, he didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, watching her. Emma didn't turn immediately. I think I finally understand, she said softly. Daniel stepped closer. Understand what? Emma looked at the blouses. That love doesn't disappear, she said. It changes form. Daniel stayed silent. Emma continued. I used to think I had to compete with your past, she admitted, but now I realize I was never in competition. Daniel slowly sat beside her. No, he said gently, you weren't. A long silence followed. Not uncomfortable, but meaningful. Emma closed the box slowly. I want to do something, she said. Daniel looked at her curiously. Emma stood up and walked toward Lily's room. Daniel followed inside. Lily was still asleep, hugging her small teddy bear. Emma knelt beside her gently. Then she looked at Daniel. I want her to grow up knowing all parts of her story, she said softly, not just the painful ones. Daniel nodded. Emma continued. But I also want her to see that love doesn't end when someone is gone. She paused. It transforms. That moment hit Daniel deeply, because that was something he had struggled to teach Lily alone for years. Now, he didn't have to do it alone anymore. Later that day, something unexpected happened. Emma suggested something simple, a family photo. Daniel hesitated slightly. It might feel complicated, he said carefully. Emma shook her head. It won't, she replied. It will feel complete. That afternoon, they went to a small park nearby. The same park where Daniel used to take Lily, but this time it was different. Lily ran ahead, laughing. Emma walked beside Daniel, not behind, not outside, but beside him. They sat under a tree. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, warm and golden. A stranger offered to take a picture. Family photo, the person asked kindly. Daniel looked at Emma. Emma smiled. Yes, she said softly. Family. Lily ran into the frame and stood between them, smiling brightly. Emma gently held Lily's hand. Daniel placed his hand on Lily's shoulder. The camera clicked, but in that moment, it wasn't just a photo. It was a transformation that evening. After returning home, Lily placed the printed photo on the wall, right beside another, older frame. A picture of Sarah holding baby Lily. Emma stood quietly for a moment. Then she smiled. Not forced, not painful, but real. She turned to Daniel. I think she would be happy, Emma said softly. Daniel nodded. I think she already is, he replied. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly, the house stopped feeling like a place of hidden emotions. It became something new, a space where past and present coexisted, without conflict. But the real emotional climax came one quiet night. Lily was asleep. The lights were dim. Emma stood near the window, looking outside. Daniel walked in behind her. I have something to tell you, he said quietly. Emma turned slightly. What is it? Daniel hesitated. Then he smiled faintly. I went to Sarah's resting place today. Emma listened carefully. Daniel continued. And I told her about you. Emma's eyes softened. I told her, Daniel said, that Lily is safe and loved, and not alone anymore. Emma felt a lump in her throat, and she whispered. Daniel looked at her. I think she would have liked you, he said softly. That moment broke something emotional inside. Emma, not pain, but release. She walked toward him and gently leaned her head on his chest. For the first time, there was no fear between them, only peace. Daniel held her, quietly, not tightly, not possessively, but gently, like something precious, that had finally been understood. And in that silence, their story finally felt whole, not because the past disappeared, but because it was no longer fighting the present. Before going to bed, Emma looked once more at the framed photos on the wall. 2 stories. One past, one present, connected, not competing. She smiled softly and whispered to herself. Love doesn't divide a home, it builds it. And sometimes, the secrets we fear the most are not betrayals at all, but memories, waiting to be understood.